I had the chance to speak with one of D&D's biggest fans and to get a tour of his game room, which he calls the Gary Gygax Memorial Dungeon. We are in. What are we in right now? What is this place?
Welcome to the Gary Gygax Memorial Dungeon in Beverly Hills, in the basement of my house. And now I named it that years before ever meeting Luke Gygax, because I used to play in a group with a Warner Brothers executive, a couple Upright Citizens Brigade comedians, and my brother. We've had this like home group going, and we played Tomb of Horrors actually. Which is apropos to this conversation. That was the first. We played a couple homebrew adventures, and then we all wanted to do Tomb of Horrors because we had never done it. And so my friends would come over, and they walked into the foyer of my house upstairs, which is, you know, big. And they looked up and went, "Man, this is just the way Gary would have wanted it." And I said, "Come on, man, like come downstairs." And I showed him this dungeon room, which was a wine cellar. It was the only room in the house that we didn't renovate when we moved in. I sold my bachelor pad. I had a house in the hills that I sold. My wife got rid of her condo, and when we got married, we moved in together here. And she wanted to turn this into like a Pilates dance room with like bars on the side, and was getting ready to do that with like the wood panel floors. And I started playing Dungeons and Dragons again after a 25 year hiatus, and I said, "No, you can't do that yet, please. Like, I'll build you a dance studio somewhere else. Like, I will destroy the backyard and build you a dance studio. I have to keep this room. It's perfect." I started playing Dungeons and Dragons again, and I need this room. I have to keep this room intact. And as you can see, over the course of the next few years, the dragon heads and beholders and mind flayer plaques started moving in. All the minis started moving in, and a library and Dwarven Forge and flight combat tiers, and gifts from people. Hey man, I saw this Hand of Vecna at a store. I want to mail it to you. Where can I mail it to you? Hey, I painted you this big undead red dragon. Where can I send that? So this thing just got built out and became my man cave, if you will.
What impact has Gary Gygax had on you in your childhood? And beyond that, even pop culture in general.
Man. I mean, there are several ways that Gary Gygax impacted me on a personal level, because I am a professional artist and storyteller, and long before drama school was available, long before screenwriting classes were available for a kid, I had an outlet for all of those talents. So, growing up, I practiced and did forget 10,000 hours. I mean, we're talking 20, 30,000 hours of just writing stories, creating characters, writing backstories for the characters, connecting them. I was working my brain in a way to understand like episodic storytelling, like over time, how to introduce a character, introduce a little event that would later then blossom 8 episodes down the line. How to sneak plot lines and threads and story arcs and character arcs, and I was working all that out before I even knew that was a job, and so for me this was this weird, bizarre game, this way of working that part of my imagination as a kid, and somehow it found me, I found it, whatever it was, but my brain was perfectly compatible with tabletop role-playing, which is attributed to Gary, because prior to Dungeons and Dragons, it was war games. You were you were in control of an army and you were trying to beat this other person's army, or you were reenacting battles from history. And what Gary said was, okay, well, here's the big army, but what would it be like to be one of the soldiers? And what would it be like to build that character, that soldier character out? And then furthermore, I don't want to do battle reenactments. I want to have monsters and a fantasy setting. And these were really revolutionary thoughts. So for me, a kid that grew up with The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings, to be able to find a way to create an avatar for myself and insert that in a game with my friends who were playing versions of themselves, avatars of themselves, it was revolutionary. Because when I run into those kids nowadays as adults, we don't say, hey, remember that one time we played that game where we went into that dungeon and then our characters fought the boss? No, we say, hey, remember that time we were in that jungle and we went across that rope bridge and he fell off, but you grabbed him and we made it across and then we fought those trolls and we found that ancient temple and we went inside and we beat that manticore? Like, we say we did it. In our minds, we were actually doing it, which is what I do as a performing artist every day. And Gary figured out a way to create an infinite sandbox to play in. My wife surprised me on my birthday this past year. Since I started playing D&D again, I play as Archon the Cruel, who's an Oathbreaker paladin of Tiamat. And she knew I was like obsessed with these Dragonlance books, and she knew that I was flying around the world to go hang out with the authors of these Dragonlance books that I loved. And so, unbeknownst to me, she got in touch with one of the great Dragonlance artists, also one of the great D&D or AD&D module artists, Jeff Easley, unbeknownst to me. And one day I came home and she said, oh, do you want your birthday present early? I said, yeah. I said, well, do you want to give it to me early? And we were going on vacation. She said, yeah, you should open it now. You can enjoy it. I said, all right. So I opened this package, and inside of it was an original Jeff Easley oil painting of my character, Archon the Cruel, in Dragonlance, like book cover style. And it just blew my mind. It's crazy to, it's crazy that my entire generation of D&D and tabletop role-playing game players are playing again. That we're all playing again. As an entire generation, we're all playing again. There are games all over Los Angeles. We're all playing because we all moved to LA with the hopes of working in entertainment as an extension of these games that we played as kids, whether consciously or subconsciously. And to think that Jeff was still around and still an unbelievable painter, and that I would have a character that was, painted by him. It just blows my mind.
Thank you, Joe, for being on D&D Beyond. I'm Todd Kenrick, your host. Thank you for watching.